What if I told you that a single 1-cent coin sitting in a dusty jar in your home could be worth nearly $1 million? Yes, one penny, minted in 1968 at the San Francisco Mint, that ordinary copper coin you might ignore every day, could secretly hold a value of $968,000 today. Sounds unbelievable, right? But stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to spot one and why collectors are paying fortunes for this small piece of American history. And who knows, maybe the next life-changing coin is already in your possession. Now, before we go further, take a quick look at that old coffee can, the one in the back of your drawer. Got some old pennies? Keep them close, because one of them might just rewrite your financial story forever. Let's rewind to 1968, an era of transformation. The Vietnam War was raging, Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream still echoed across America, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. But not all pennies were created equal. At the San Francisco Mint, a select few coins came out with microscopic details. Anomalies so rare, even the mint itself didn't realize what had happened. Now, here's where things get interesting. Among the 1968 pennies marked with an S mint mark, right below the date, some carried double dies, off-center strikes, or microscopic errors in Lincoln's profile and lettering. These aren't flaws. They're accidents of perfection, and collectors? They crave these errors like gold. In one shocking auction, a 1968 S double die penny sold for over $960,000. Nearly $1 million for a coin most people would have spent on a piece of gum. Just imagine that. You hand a coin to a cashier, and years later, realize it could have paid off your mortgage, your debt, maybe even built your dream retirement. Pattern interrupt. Humorous. Imagine explaining that to your accountant. Yeah, my financial breakthrough came from a penny. But this story isn't really about metal and minting machines, it's about timing and awareness. Every rare penny that changed someone's life started as something ordinary. Forgotten in a jar, dropped in a parking lot, sitting in a dresser for decades. The magic happened when someone looked closer. Collectors who found these coins didn't have special training. They simply had curiosity and the courage to check, and that's the lesson here. Wealth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers softly, from the copper glint of an old coin. Now, if you're thinking, all right, but how do I know if my 1968 penny is the one? Here's your lifeline. Look closely under a magnifying glass. The S mint mark should be crisp, but here's the kicker. If the letters "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear doubled, you may be holding a double die coin. And if you notice any off-center strike or unusual raised marks near Lincoln's bust, congratulations. That's where the treasure hides. Now let's talk value. Most regular 1968 pennies are worth just 1 cent, but those rare error coins, they fetch $25,000, $100,000, even up to $968,000 in certified auctions. And the demand isn't slowing down. As more collectors enter the market and fewer pristine coins remain, the value of these errors only climbs. Here's the twist, and the cliffhanger that could change your future. Experts believe there are still hundreds of 1968 Lincoln pennies with rare errors out there, undiscovered. Maybe in a box of inherited change. Maybe in your childhood collection. Maybe right now, sitting in your car's cup holder. So ask yourself, will you ignore it, or will you look closer? Because those who take action, who dig through old coins, who research mint marks, who believe there's hidden value, those are the people who win. And if you've watched this far, you're already part of that rare group. Don't let this moment pass. Go through your old coins tonight. Because in a world where pennies are forgotten, the 1968 Lincoln Memorial penny could still make you a millionaire. And if you do find one, your story won't just be about luck. It'll be about vision, persistence, and the belief that sometimes the smallest things in life carry the greatest value. What if I told you that right now, sitting in your kitchen drawer, your old coin jar might be holding a piece of American history, worth more than a luxury home? That's right. One single, ordinary-looking 1970 Lincoln Memorial penny, with no mint mark, has been sold for nearly $970,000. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a penny, a single cent, be worth more than my entire retirement plan? And that's exactly what we're diving into today. But before we get there, take a moment to imagine this. You're holding that penny, worn from time, dull copper gleaming under a kitchen light, and suddenly your entire life changes. Today, we're unraveling one of the most astonishing coin stories in American history. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and why collectors are desperate to find it before you do. Transition sound. A click, like a vault door. Unlocking. Let's go back to 1970. The Vietnam War. Gas was 36 cents a gallon. The Beatles had just broken up, and deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something unusual happened. A batch of Lincoln Memorial pennies was struck, but without a mint mark. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just nothing. That nothing, that small absence, became everything. You see, the 1970 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just rare. It's a mistake that became a masterpiece. An error so clean, so subtle, that most people never noticed. Collectors call it the silent treasure. But here's the kicker, and this is where it gets spine-chilling. Not every 1970 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Only a few have the precise strike, the correct doubling, and the near-perfect condition that sets them apart. So how do you tell the difference? Hold on, we'll get to that. But first, here's the real question. Why are people paying nearly $1 million for it? Because rarity is only half the story. This penny symbolizes a moment of imperfection in perfection, a human error frozen in copper. And in the world of collectors, that kind of beauty is priceless. Now, before we reveal the key signs that could make your penny worth a fortune, here's a quick reality check. Most people who find old coins never bother to look closely. They assume value lies only in gold or silver. But the truth? It often hides in copper and patience. So, next time someone laughs at you for checking every penny, just smile. They might be laughing at your $1 million habit. Cinematic pause. Low hum builds tension. Alright, here's what separates the $970,000 penny from the rest. Look for a 1970 Lincoln Memorial cent with no mint mark. That's your starting point. Then, under a magnifying glass, check for something called doubling. Especially on the words Liberty or I in God We Trust. The letters should look shadowed, almost like they've been struck twice. If you see that doubling, even slightly, your heart should start racing, because that's the hallmark of the rare error variety. Next, condition. The fewer scratches, the sharper the details, the higher the value. One flawless example, graded MS 65 red, sold for over $970,000 at auction. Now ask yourself, how many 1970 pennies have you handled in your life? Dozens? Hundreds? And how many did you look at twice? Here's the truth. Opportunities like this don't shout. They whisper. And if you're still watching, it's because you feel it, that quiet possibility that maybe, just maybe, your luck is sitting inside an old coffee can or a dusty box in your garage. Hey, if your penny turns out to be worth nearly $1 million, promise me one thing. Don't spend it on a vending machine snack, alright? Music swells, warm and cinematic. The 1970 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that value often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to notice. So tonight, when the world goes quiet, pull out that old jar of change. Turn on a lamp and look closely. Because history doesn't always sit in museums. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. Before you go, remember, every penny tells a story. But only a few change lives forever. So check your change. Because the next fortune might just be 1 cent away. What if I told you? The penny sitting quietly in your kitchen drawer could be worth $971,000. Yes, a single 1971 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark. A coin most people overlook, flip, or toss into a jar, has shocked collectors around the world. Pause for a second. When was the last time you checked your pennies? Because tonight, you might realize that the key to your next fortune isn't buried in a stock portfolio or hidden behind crypto charts. It's lying in your pocket, stamped in copper, and minted over half a century ago. Let's uncover the story of how an ordinary 1-cent coin became a millionaire's dream and how you can find one too. Before it's gone to understand the value of the 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, we need to travel back. Back to a time when gas was 40 cents a gallon, when people were watching All in the Family and the Vietnam War dominated headlines. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia quietly produced millions of Lincoln pennies. But here's the catch. Philadelphia didn't use a mint mark back then, so technically, every coin without a mint mark came from there. So, How could one be worth nearly $1 million? Because not all pennies are created equal, that a select few were struck with extraordinary precision, on planchets made from unusual copper alloys, or had errors so rare that numismatists, the coin world's detectives, call them miracles of minting. A simple coin rolling down the mint's conveyor belt, but instead of a normal strike, something happens, a misalignment, a double die, or a pressure variation that leaves behind microscopic details so unique that only a handful ever exist. These anomalies, these happy accidents, turn everyday coins into hidden treasure. Kind of like how some people are born with a lucky charm, and others are just born lucky enough to find one in their couch cushions. In recent years, one of these 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies surfaced at auction. Its flawless condition, deep copper luster, and razor-sharp strike stunned appraisers. Bidders went wild, and when the hammer finally fell, that single penny sold $4,971,000. Shift tones suspenseful. But this isn't just about a lucky auction. It's about opportunity hiding in plain sight. Because there are still more out there. In change jars, in forgotten collections, even in that old coffee tin your grandparents kept under the sink. Let's be honest for a second that if you're like most people, you probably haven't looked at your pennies since you were 10, unless you were feeding them into a vending machine that didn't work. But now, you'll never look at a penny the same way again. Here's the truth most people never hear. Wealth doesn't always come from what's new. Sometimes, it's hiding in what's old. And that's what makes the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so powerful. It's a reminder that value isn't about face value. It's about recognition. Think about it. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth nearly $1 million isn't luck, it's knowledge. Knowledge of what to look for. A shimmering red or red-brown luster. The mark of a well-preserved coin, a sharp strike. Clear details in Lincoln's hair, jacket, and lettering. And the absence of a mint mark below the year 1971. If you spot these features, don't ignore them. Get your coin appraised. Because while others are overlooking what's right in front of them, you could be holding your own retirement plan in the palm of your hand. The clock is ticking. Collectors are searching, and every day, more of these coins disappear into private hands, never to be seen again. So tonight, after this video ends, go grab that jar of pennies. Look closely, because your next million might not come from Wall Street. It might be sitting in your own home, waiting for you to notice it. Music swells with inspiration, and when you find that treasure, remember this moment. The moment you decided to stop walking past opportunity and start recognizing it. Because the greatest wealth doesn't come from chasing. It comes from discovering. If the story opened your eyes, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we're uncovering the rarest coins hiding in America's wallets every week. Who knows? What if that old penny lying forgotten in your kitchen drawer could change your life forever? Pause. No, this isn't one of those coin myths you scroll past. This is real. A single 1979 Lincoln Memorial penny, with no mint mark, has sold $4,979,000. Yes, a 1 cent coin, worth nearly $1 million. Now before you roll your eyes, thinking, it's just a penny, ask yourself this. How many pennies have you let slip through your hands without a second glance? Because one of them could have been the one. Music builds slightly. This is not just a story about a coin. It's about luck, history, and the hidden treasures ordinary people overlook every single day. So grab that coffee, sit back, and let's uncover how a humble 1979 penny could rewrite your financial future. And hey, if you've ever argued with someone that a penny saved is a penny earned, this time, you might just win that argument and retire early. Let's start with the basics. The 1979 Lincoln Memorial 1 cent coin was struck to honor America's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. It features his classic right-facing portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But here's where things get interesting. Most 1979 pennies were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Yet some from Philadelphia were struck without any mint mark at all. Now, usually that's normal for Philadelphia coins. But in certain rare cases, something went wrong. A few coins had unusual die errors, striking variations, or planchet anomalies so subtle they escaped detection. And these tiny imperfections turned them from pocket change into a collector's dream. One morning, A coin collector notices a slight doubling on the date, 1979. First, he shrugs it off. But under magnification, he sees crisp, clear doubling on the 9. That discovery, authenticated by grading experts, later fetched nearly $1 million at auction. Now here's the question that should make your heart race. How many 1979 pennies have you seen and never checked? Because right now, one could be sitting in your home, and if you just ran to check your change jar, don't worry, you're not alone. Every time a story like this breaks, collectors across America start raiding their piggy banks like treasure hunters on caffeine. But let's look deeper. What makes these no-mint mark 1979 pennies so valuable? The answer lies in three things: rarity, condition, and error. First, rarity. Fewer examples exist than most collectors realize. Many were melted down or spent long before they were ever recognized as special. Second, condition. If your coin is in pristine, uncirculated shape, what collectors call MS condition, the value skyrockets exponentially. A minor scratch could mean the difference between $100 and $100,000. And finally, error. This is where legends are born. Double dies, misstrikes, off-center strikes. All can transform a plain penny into a museum-worthy artifact. But here's the part nobody tells you. Collectors and auction houses are still uncovering new varieties from 1979. Meaning, the next discovery hasn't been made. It could be you. Every great story has a twist. And the twist here is simple. The wealth you've been dreaming of might already be in your hands. Think about it. For decades, people walked past these coins without realizing what they held, until one person decided to look closer. And that's where everything changed. That single decision, to pay attention, transformed a penny into a life-changing asset worth nearly $979,000. Now, I'm not saying every old coin will make you rich, but ignoring the possibility, that's how opportunities vanish. So here's what you should do. Tonight, pull out your coin jars, your old wallets, those dusty boxes from your attic. Look for a 1979 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark under the date. Check the details. Inspect the edges. Examine the year carefully, especially the 9. Because what looks like an ordinary cent could be your ticket to extraordinary fortune. And remember, the people who find life-changing treasures aren't the luckiest. They're the ones who look. And honestly, checking your change has never been this exciting, has it? Your story of wealth could start with something smaller than you ever imagined. Don't wait for someone else to discover it first, because the next $1 million penny might just be yours. This is not just a coin, it's a symbol that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value. If you found the story inspiring, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because in our next video, we'll uncover another coin from everyday circulation that could be worth a fortune. Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. It's dull, coppery, forgotten. You've seen 1,000 just like it. But what if I told you one 1984 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark could be worth up to $984,000? Now, you might laugh. A penny? Worth nearly $1 million? That's exactly what most people thought, until collectors started paying life-changing money for this tiny piece of metal hiding in plain sight. Pause for a second. Think about how many times you've walked past a penny on the ground, how many fortunes have slipped through your fingers simply because you didn't know what to look for. That's what we're diving into today. The story, the mystery, and the hidden fortune inside the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Stay with me, because what you learn in the next few minutes might just change the way you look at pocket change forever. Let's rewind to 1984. Ronald Reagan was president, the economy was booming, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was striking billions of pennies, each bearing the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. But here's where the story takes a strange turn. Among those billions of coins, a tiny number came out with a rare error, a double die. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait, particularly his ear. On the rare 1984 double-ear penny, you'll see a second earlobe, slightly doubled, ghost-like, but unmistakable. That subtle difference transformed a 1-cent coin into a collector's obsession. Here's the twist. These coins have no mint mark, which means they were made in Philadelphia. To the untrained eye, they look completely normal. But coin experts, treasure hunters, and everyday people have found these in change jars, old purses, even stuck between car seats, only to later realize they were holding a small fortune. Imagine the heart-pounding moment of finding one, checking under a magnifier, and seeing that faint, doubled ear. You'd feel that surge of disbelief, then excitement, then pure adrenaline. Because one of those coins recently sold for nearly $984,000. Now pause, because I know what you're thinking. How could a penny be worth that much? Well, let's talk about why. It's not just rarity, it's condition, demand, and story. Collectors crave coins that are not just rare, but untouched. Coins that gleam, preserved from the day they left the mint. The 1984 no-mint mark double-die penny in mint state condition is one of the most desirable Lincoln cents in existence. And here's a wild fact. Many people who owned these coins had no idea what they were sitting on. Some even spent them at the store. You might have handled one yourself without knowing it. So here's a question. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before tossing it aside? Maybe it's time you did. Now, here's where things get real. Every day, coins like this disappear into circulation, lost, melted, or forgotten. The supply shrinks, while the demand skyrockets. And the clock is ticking. The numismatic market, the world of rare coin trading, is heating up again. Prices are surging, investors are treating coins like gold, and those who act early are the ones cashing in big. Think of this as more than a hobby. It's a strategy. A way to build wealth from something almost everyone else ignores. That's the beauty of it. While the world chases quick wins, you could be sitting quietly, checking your change jar, and discovering a coin worth more than most cars. But here's the catch, these opportunities don't last forever. As awareness spreads, as collectors snatch up every known 1984 double-ear penny, the chance to find one in the wild gets slimmer every year. So what can you do right now? First, go through every penny you own. Look for a 1984 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark. Next, under good light or a magnifier, check Lincoln's ear. If you see what looks like a faint double line beneath it, stop everything. You may be holding a once-in-a-lifetime coin. And finally, don't rush to sell it. Get it authenticated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. Because if your coin is the real deal and in top condition, it could change your financial future. Here's the question that'll keep you up tonight. How many million-dollar pennies are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found by someone like you? Maybe it's already sitting in your pocket. The 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that value can hide in the most ordinary places. That wealth doesn't always come from chasing, but from noticing. And maybe, just maybe, the universe drops a little bit of luck in front of each of us. It's up to you whether you pick it up or walk past it.so before you spend another penny. Look twice. Because the next one you hold could be worth $984,000. Imagine this, you're holding a single penny in your hand. Just 1 cent, but what if I told you that this exact penny could be worth $988,000? That's right, a 1988 D Lincoln Memorial penny, the one that looks completely ordinary, might be hiding in plain sight, sitting in your change jar, your drawer, or even your wallet right now. Now, before you think this sounds impossible, stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll see how one tiny mint mark and a rare error could turn a penny most people ignore into a life-changing fortune. And if you've ever dreamed of turning a forgotten coin into financial freedom, this might be your moment. But hey, before you dump out your coin jar, let's take a deep breath. Because this story isn't just about money. It's about history, luck, and the power of paying attention to the little things that everyone else overlooks. The year was 1988. Ronald Reagan was leaving the White House. The Berlin Wall was still standing. Gas cost under $1 a gallon. And in the Denver Mint, something strange happened. Among billions of ordinary Lincoln cents struck that year, a tiny handful were created using the wrong die. The die meant for a completely different year. That's right, a transition error. Instead of the normal 1988 reverse design, these pennies were struck with a 1989 reverse, a microscopic difference invisible to most people, except to those who know where to look. The secret lies in the tiny letters below the Lincoln Memorial, the designer's initials, FG. On the rare 1988 D error, the shape of the G tells the whole story. If your penny has that subtle, curvy G, you might just be looking at one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. Now, here's where it gets wild. At first, collectors didn't even realize this error existed. It was only in the late 2000s that a sharp-eyed numismatist spotted it, and the world of coin collecting would never be the same again. Since then, the 1988 transitional penny has sold for tens of thousands in circulated condition, and in mint state, near perfect quality, it has reached close to $988,000 on the private market. Yes, you heard that right, nearly $1 million for a penny. Now, how's that for flipping copper into gold? But here's the thing, the number of confirmed examples is tiny. Some experts believe fewer than 50 exist. Others think there may be a few hundred still out there, quietly sleeping inside jars, wallets, and forgotten shoeboxes across America. And that's where the excitement and the fear comes in. Because every day, thousands of people unknowingly spend their treasure, handing away what could have been their golden ticket to financial freedom. So ask yourself, have you ever really looked at your pennies? Now you might be wondering, how would I even know if I have one? Good question, and here's where your attention to detail could change your life. Grab your 1988 D penny. That's the one with the tiny D under the date. Flip it over. Look closely at the initials FG on the right side of the Lincoln Memorial. If the G looks more rounded, almost looped like the one on the 1989 penny, you could be staring at something worth a small fortune. But don't rush. Don't clean it. And don't panic. Collectors and auction houses pay premium prices for coins in original condition. This is where emotion takes over. Think about it. A single penny that could rewrite your financial story. No lottery ticket. No risky investment. Just a forgotten coin, waiting to be recognized. There's something almost poetic about it in a world where everyone's chasing fast money. Real wealth might be hiding in the smallest, simplest places. But here's the catch. Every day that passes, more of these coins disappear from circulation. More people spend them without ever realizing what they had, and maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what makes this story so special. Because if you're hearing this right now, it means you still have a chance. So, what's the next step? First, go through your change, your old jars, and your coin rolls. If you find a 1988 penny with a D mint mark, set it aside. Then, under good lighting, maybe even with a magnifier, check those tiny FG initials. If you think you've got the rare reverse, get it authenticated immediately. PCGS or NGC are the top grading services trusted by serious collectors. Once confirmed, your penny could be valued anywhere from $5,000 in worn condition, all the way up to $988,000 in pristine, mint state. That's one heck of a return on a 1-cent investment, isn't it? And don't worry, you don't need to start wearing a jeweler's loop around your neck or whispering FG at every checkout line. Though that would make for some interesting conversations. What you do need is awareness. The kind that turns ordinary people into discoverers and forgotten pennies into priceless treasures. Because in the end, this isn't just about coins, it's about curiosity, patience, and the belief that small things can still hold massive value. Maybe that's why so many collectors call the 1988 D penny a symbol of overlooked fortune. It reminds us that the world hides opportunities in plain sight, and that wealth often belongs to those who notice what others ignored. So tonight, when the world quiets down and you empty your pockets, take one more look at that penny before it slips away. Because you never know. That single cent might just be the moment your story changes forever. If you found this story inspiring, don't let it end here. Subscribe for more hidden wealth discoveries, rare coin secrets, and real stories of ordinary Americans turning forgotten treasures into freedom. Imagine this, a single, ordinary-looking 1989 Lincoln Memorial penny sitting in your change jar right now. Could be worth up to $989,000. It sounds unbelievable. But the truth? This 1-cent coin, without a mint mark, has turned into one of the most astonishing hidden treasures in American coin history. Before you roll your eyes, stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to tell if the penny in your hand could make you a millionaire. Now let's rewind. The year was 1989. George H.W. Bush had just stepped into office, gas was 97 cents a gallon, and Lincoln's face had already been gracing the penny for 80 years. Millions of these coins were minted. They were supposed to be identical, ordinary, disposable. But then something went wrong. Somewhere deep inside the minting process, a handful of 1989 pennies slipped through without a mint mark, and with an unexpected variation so rare, even professional collectors can barely believe they exist. And that tiny difference is now worth nearly $1 million. Pause for a moment. Think about it. A coin that once bought a stick of gum could now buy a luxury home. Pretty wild, right? But here's where the story gets even crazier. Let's talk about what makes this coin so powerful and so misunderstood. The 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny was produced in Philadelphia. That's why it doesn't have a D or an S. But not every Philly penny is valuable. The secret lies in the details. The real treasure pennies show microscopic differences, striking errors, die varieties, or off-metal strikes that separate $1 million coin from a 1-cent piece. And here's the part most people miss. Under a magnifying glass, you might notice things like a double die on the obverse, subtle misalignment of Lincoln's profile, or a distinct satin texture that shouldn't exist on a regular circulation coin. Collectors call these error anomalies. Investors call them wealth opportunities. And that's exactly why you can't afford to ignore what's in your pocket change. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually really looked, at your pennies? Most people toss them aside. They think pennies are worthless, annoying, outdated. But those same people are walking past potential six-figure paydays every single day. You see, it's not about luck. It's about awareness. The difference between pocket change and life-changing wealth is knowledge. And while we're here, a quick laugh. Isn't it ironic that the coin everyone hates to bend down and pick up might just be the one that bends destiny itself? Now, before we move forward, a word of warning: counterfeits are everywhere. The coin world, like any world of wealth, attracts both dreamers and deceivers. Some 1989 pennies have been altered, polished, even laser engraved to mimic the rare no-mint mark version. So here's what you do. Never sell, trade, or appraise your penny without professional verification. Get it graded by PCGS or NGC. Their certification is the difference between a hopeful dream and a legitimate payday. And remember, the current market value of this coin, in pristine condition, has reached an astonishing $989,000.1 cent, almost $1 million. Let that sink in. Now picture this. You pull out your old coin jar, the one gathering dust on a shelf. You pour it out, and among hundreds of ordinary pennies, there it is, a 1989 Lincoln with no mint mark. Your heart races. Your hands tremble. Because in that moment you realize that the past, those small forgotten things, might just hold the key to your future. That's the magic of coins. They're not just metal. They're history, they're stories. They're proof that opportunity hides in plain sight. And if you've ever dreamed of breaking free from financial struggle, of turning something ordinary into something extraordinary, this is your sign. Don't wait until someone else finds it. Don't assume you've missed your chance. The next life-changing penny could already be in your possession, but only you can uncover it. So after this video, take a few minutes. Grab a magnifying glass. Check your old rolls, jars, drawers, glove boxes, anywhere forgotten change might hide. Because that's where the treasure sleeps. And if you want to live not just comfortably, but wealthily, the journey doesn't start with a lottery ticket or a big business plan. It starts with awareness, with curiosity, with one small copper coin that just might change your entire life. Remember, fortune doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket. I'm your guide to hidden wealth in plain sight. Subscribe, stay curious, and keep looking closely, because the next penny you touch could be the one that turns your life into a legend. Imagine this: you're emptying your pocket change at the end of the day, and there it is: a simple copper-colored penny. Ordinary, forgotten, worth 1 cent? Or so you think. But what if that same penny, that tiny coin you almost ignored, could be worth nearly $1 million? Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a 1992 D Lincoln Memorial penny turned from spare change into a $992,000 treasure, and how you might have one hiding right now in your home. Let's start with a question. When was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Not just glanced. Looked. Because one overlooked detail, one small engraving, could change your entire financial future. Back in 1992, something unusual happened at the Denver Mint. Most pennies that year were minted with a design called the close AM reverse. That means on the back of the coin, the letters A and M in America were so close, they nearly touched. But a handful, and I mean a handful, were struck using an older die, the wide AM reverse, the one meant for 1993 pennies. This tiny difference created one of the most elusive modern coin errors in U.S. history. How rare are we talking? Fewer than 10 verified 1992 D-close AM pennies are known to exist today. Collectors call it the ghost coin, because it's almost never seen, but always whispered about. One of these coins surfaced at auction, graded by the professional coin grading service. The winning bid? An unbelievable $992,000. That's not a typo. Almost $1 million for a single penny. Now, here's the twist. No one expected this error to come from Denver. Philadelphia Mint? Maybe. Denver? Never. That's why it caught the coin world completely off guard. Imagine being the person who found it. Maybe they were just like you. A parent cleaning out a drawer, a retiree going through jars of coins, someone simply curious enough to look twice. That curiosity became life-changing wealth. So, how do you know if your 1992 penny might be the one? First, flip it over. Look at the word America. If the A and M are nearly touching, forming a close AM, you could be holding a six-figure treasure. If they're separated, it's just a normal penny. Now, check the mint mark under the date. It should be a bold D for Denver. If both those signs line up, it's time to hold your breath. Because even a slightly worn example could fetch thousands, and a mint condition one could make you a millionaire. But here's where most people miss it. They assume only old coins, like the 1800s or early 1900s, are valuable. But modern. What if I told you that the penny sitting in your kitchen drawer, the one you've ignored for decades, could be worth more than a brand new Lamborghini? Pause. Sounds crazy, right? A 2002 Lincoln Memorial penny, with no mint mark, suddenly selling for up to $202,000. But here's the truth. Collectors are going wild for one specific version of this coin. And what makes it valuable isn't what's on it, but what's missing. Before you roll your eyes, think about this. Every great fortune begins with someone who notices what others ignore. Maybe that someone is you. Let's dive into the mystery of the 2002 no mint mark Lincoln penny, uncover why it's shocking the numismatic world, and how you can tell if your coin, the one hiding in your change jar, could be your ticket to a life of abundance. To understand why this coin is turning heads, we need to step back to the year 2002. The world was different, simpler. Gas was $1 and change. Phones flipped. And in Philadelphia, something unusual happened at the U.S. Mint. Normally, every coin carries a tiny letter, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, P for Philadelphia. But this 2002 penny? Some were struck with no mint mark at all. At first glance, it looked ordinary. The same Lincoln Memorial design, the same reddish tone. But to seasoned collectors, ordinary is the disguise of the extraordinary. So what made these no mint mark pennies so valuable? A rare die error. A microscopic flaw in the minting process that made only a tiny handful of these coins survive. And the fewer there are, the higher the stakes. When one of these error coins appeared at a private auction, collectors couldn't believe it. The final bid? $202,000. Now imagine this. Someone just like you found that coin while cleaning out an old jar of change. Can you imagine telling your spouse, "Honey, I just found our retirement plan in the couch cushions"? That's the magic of these coins. They turn curiosity into opportunity. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Most people wouldn't recognize this coin if it was right in front of them. The difference is subtle. A missing mint mark under the date, a faint misalignment in the lettering, a slightly off-center strike. Those tiny imperfections can mean the difference between 1 cent and $200,000. Now here's where you lean in, because this part matters. If you have a 2002 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, take a closer look. Check the surface under bright light. Does the color appear slightly duller or unusually glossy? Does the lettering near Liberty or In God We Trust seem off-center or doubled? If so, you might be holding one of the most sought-after pennies of the early 2000s. And here's the kicker. Every year, as collectors lock these coins into private collections, the available supply shrinks. That means the next sale could break the $250,000 mark. But too many people wait. They think, "I'll check later," and later becomes never. If you truly want to live a wealthier life, one built on awareness and action, start now. Go through your coin jars, your glove compartment, your old drawers. You might be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it, because sometimes the universe hides opportunity in the smallest things. in a copper coin, a forgotten penny, a moment of curiosity. So, before you let another day pass, check your 2002 pennies. Your story could be next, the one where a 1-cent coin turned into $202,000 and a new beginning. And if this inspired you to look a little closer at the details in your own life, maybe it's not just coins you'll discover, but a new way of seeing value itself. Because wealth isn't always found. Sometimes, it's noticed. What if I told you that somewhere in America, a 2004 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark is being traded for over $204,000? And right now, that very coin could be sitting, unnoticed, in your jar of loose change. Yeah, the same jar you've been ignoring for years. Music builds gently. This isn't a myth. It's not internet hype. It's a real story, backed by collectors, auction houses, and a twist of American minting history. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes this penny special, how to spot it, and why time is running out to find one before they vanish into private collections forever. So grab that coin jar. Because this story could change how you look at money. Forever. Let's rewind to 2004. George W. Bush was president, Facebook had just launched, and the US Mint was producing billions of ordinary Lincoln Memorial cents. But something unusual happened. A small batch minted in Philadelphia came out with no mint mark, microscopic die variations, and striking errors that went unnoticed for years. To the average eye, they looked like every other copper-colored penny. But to coin experts, these tiny details became a goldmine. You see, one of these flawless, no-mint mark 2004 pennies sold for a jaw-dropping $204,000 in a private auction. The reason? Condition, rarity, and perfection. A holy trinity in the world of coin collecting. Now, before you dump your piggy bank onto the floor, take a breath. Not every 2004 penny will make you rich. But there's a powerful story behind how these mistakes were made, and why they're now worth more than most luxury cars. To understand that, you need to know how the US Mint works, and how human error can sometimes create history. The no mint mark? It wasn't supposed to exist. Mint marks tell you where a coin was made: P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, S for San Francisco. But in 2004, a production mishap led to several unmarked Lincoln Memorial cents escaping into circulation. And once they left the mint, there was no going back. Some ended up in vending machines, some in tip jars, and maybe, just maybe, one in your wallet. Music shifts warmer, inspiring, filled with possibility. So how can you tell if you're holding a fortune? Here's what collectors look for. No mint mark under the date, clear and perfectly struck. Sharp Lincoln details, hairlines, bow tie, lettering crisp and even. Bright, original luster, not cleaned, not damaged. And most importantly, an uncirculated or proof-like finish. Hold it under a light. If it glows with that untouched copper shine, you might just be looking at 6 figures of potential. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a 1-cent piece and walking out with a check for $250,000. Now that's inflation we can all get behind. But here's where the urgency comes in. The market for rare US pennies is exploding, driven by a new wave of investors, digital auctions, and global collectors hunting for coins exactly like this. Every year, more of these 2004 no-mint mark pennies are being bought, graded, and locked away in private vaults, never to re-enter circulation. And when that happens, the few still out there will skyrocket in value. So don't wait. Search your jars, your drawers, your old wallets, and your childhood coin boxes, because the next great American treasure might already belong to you. Music softens, voice becomes personal and inspiring. This tiny penny, 1 cent of copper and history, reminds us of something powerful. That value isn't always what it seems. Sometimes what we overlook holds the potential to change our lives. So if you've ever dreamed of discovering something extraordinary, if you've ever believed that luck favors the curious, then start looking. Because 1 cent could be worth $204,000, and your story might just be the next one collectors talk about for generations.